live? I believe we are live. Let's see here. We should be live at this moment. Let's see. Seems we are live. All right. Let me just get a picture of you guys because you look so good today. All right, we're good. So guys, we are going to be going over the top AI and tech stocks today. So, bless me. Kind of like some of these songs, some of these stocks that are going to be blessed this week. My gosh, guys, we have some great tech and AI innovations that we're going to be covering for this upcoming week. This is our Sunday stock talk. For those of you guys that aren't familiar, essentially we go over what stocks are trending in the AI and tech space and how you can invest in them. Of course, these are not stock recommendations, just what we will most likely be trading throughout the week. So if you enjoy, make sure to hit that like button. Do consider subscribing, and let's get right into it. So a couple things. I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. If you have any stocks, don't hesitate to drop them in the chats. I am standing by for anyone dropping in the chats. If you have any that you are interested in, don't hesitate to just drop them there. So first one that we have set up for today, we can see the market's already starting to be volatile. We're down 0.07% today as after hours or pre-market starts to unwind as we enter Monday. So we got November week 1. I see a couple different stocks that we may see value in, and let's just kind of start it off here with the main attraction. Of course, we got this as a question mark here, which is TSLA. For those of you guys that are familiar with this stock, it's been on a tear for the past few weeks. We saw that it sold off aggressively here after what was the robo-taxi event. And then we saw after it sold off, so that event was on, let me make sure I'm on the right cadence here. Yep, so that event was here on October 16th or October 10th, and it sold off aggressively. Then we see it consolidating throughout the week. We saw it consolidate, and then we saw positive gross margins and earnings reported. So what that means is essentially it's costing them less money to make their product. So we saw it sell off. If we just look at the overall trend, we're looking at what is this considerably consistent uptrend. If I bring in the resistance, it might be a little bit more difficult to identify, but still quite clear as we kind of go into this next week. There's a few things we want to look out for. The main thing I'm going to be looking at here with TSLA is if we continue this sell-off back down to what would be previous levels. I don't know that it'll go down to 225. Maybe it would be a little more bullish down to 229. Couple things. As you guys know, this is Tesla stock, right? So with Tesla stock, of course, you know, we're looking on this lower trend right now. We could see that it's really continually got rejected around the levels that it's at right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it get rejected and kind of continue down. Is that most likely to happen? It's a volatile week here. So the main thing we want to look at is a couple things. The MACD is looking a little oversold, right? So potentially looking like a pullback before we see it continue its upward direction. Of course, we could see it sell off here back down to the support, or at least down in this 235 to 240 range. The RSI is looking a little bit overextended as far as being oversold. But again, it's a nice healthy pullback. They had a really positive earnings, and they also reported domestic gross products being more profitable. So it's costing them their margins are small or are bigger, so they have a better time making product. So I'm actually going to be looking for this support right here. So as you guys can see, there's quite a clear support right here. See this support, this consolidation, and then we have the same thing right here. Say it's pretty clear. I could imagine that we could see it test down to here and then continue up. Yes, it could go down to support, as we've seen, but we're at previous levels here that are above, or that are the same as 2020. Okay, so if we're looking at the overall direction of TSLA, to be at the same levels that we were at in 2021, excuse me, it's kind of insane, right? The company's increased in value. Think that they're going to be a little bit more bullish than pulling back all the way to here. But you know, of course, that's how I'm going to be treating it. I will most likely enter a trade around here to see if we can catch a swing up to 275. Again, if you guys are invested in Tesla or you're invested in TSLA, I would encourage you to check out TSLL. TSLL is a little bit higher risk, right? Because it goes up 2% every time that Tesla goes up 1%. But, you know, for example, if we were identifying what were those same support and resistance levels right here, and we were to identify this resistance as this previous support that is acting as a resistance that we could see it potentially push back up to, we'd be looking at on TSLL a margin for profit of what would be about 25%, right? So really kind of a nice gain. Now, of course, you could see it continue down, and that's why you want to wait for a little bit more confirmation. And if we did wait for a little more confirmation on the bounce, and we'd be buying somewhere probably right around here, we'd be looking at about 17%, then conservative take profit between 10 and 15% margin for profit. So I'm going to be looking at this one throughout the week. You guys have any other ones? Leave them in the comment section, of course, as we talked about earlier again. And then we have Microsoft. So Microsoft is in the Fibonacci, in the golden ratio, which is most oftentimes referred to as a buy point. So in that golden ratio, that 0.618, you know, it's been bouncing right here, and we see it starting to push up. It's looking a little oversold, right, on the MACD and on the RSI. So being oversold is one thing, but also introducing the SMA and that EMA. Couple things. We saw that this EMA, this SMA, which is way too big, I need to make it like 2 pixels, recently crossed over. So what that means is we could see that it's going to most likely, and not always, of course, it's very right? If we bring this down a little bit, you guys can see we're at a support. We've seen this continued uptrend. We recently sold off. The MACD is looking oversold, as well as the RSI. And then now, if we are going to break above this EMA, then that would be indication, some more confirmation that I would identify to be a better deal to buy Microsoft. Now, in the event that it does break above this EMA, we start to see it push up to, you know, 415 to 418 from that 409 price point, then we could be looking at purchasing it. Now, I already actually have a position in Microsoft here. It's down a little bit, about 126 bucks here. But so I'm in early. I wouldn't encourage you guys to get into this trade early, just my current position. And I'm looking to actually ride Microsoft up to previous highs. I see it as one of those stocks that, with the recent investment, ChatGPT being out of support, having recently sold off, and having recently beat their earnings, it would just make sense, right? This is all I can say from my own experience, that it would go up, and that we would see it continue in its overall direction. And by overall direction, if we look on Microsoft, simply put, if we just jump into the 5-year here, I mean, we've been really just continuing this upward direction. It's quite clear that this is an established support that we're at right now. If you guys see that this level is pretty clearly mapped out as a support. So that being the support of the trend, being an overall support that we've seen before, and then having that RSI and the MACD kind of peaking out on the oversold side, it just indicates there might be less risk to get into this investment. There is also an underlyingly good company to be investing in, which is Microsoft. And so with those things together, all three kind of indicators working, mapped out earlier, that Fibonacci was also showing that it could potentially be a good buy. So between the Fibonacci, them beating their earnings but being below their fair value, and not only that, but being at the support, really just makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, so the other one that we had recommended here was On Semiconductor. So On Semiconductor is a stock that is the supplier of the microchips for Volkswagen. So Volkswagen is, a car company that is working on becoming more innovative and having things that they can essentially use to do more self-driving and be more equipped technologically. And On Semiconductor is a company that is supplying those chips. They're a little bit oversold on the MACD, right? They're looking like we could see them continue their upward direction. They've consolidated, and then we see that this RSI is also oversold. So simply put, like, guys, it wouldn't really make sense to buy something at a premium, right? You don't want to buy something when it's at an all-time high, right? Even SPY is looking a little on the overbought side, right? And I'm trying to get a better charting for you guys. But what we've seen with On Semiconductor, they've been on a consistent uptrend. And guys, wouldn't it make sense to buy something after it's been holding its price strong? It's been consolidating. They beat their earnings, so they are experiencing growth in the company. And then we also have them being fairly below their current fair value. From here, the current price back to previous highs would be a 35% increase in any stock that you invest in here. 35% is a fairly good outlook, and we haven't seen it sell back down to these previous levels. It's been fairly stable, and I especially have liked On Semi. Like, I listened to their earnings call, and they've been around for many years. They're based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. But we saw them sell off after hours and then start to push back up a little bit. And I think that what we're looking at here's them holding this trend kind of going up. But also, if we look at what the support looks like, and we look on maybe like a year to date, which is a little more easy to tell, I mean, it's quite clear that there's this consolidation happening with the stock. I mean, can you guys see we have support right there, and then we have this resistance, and to me it kind of looks like we saw it validate the support, and we see it pushing back up. And yes, I'm using the Robinhood Legend platform. So yes, it is on Robinhood. Yes. Yeah, so we use Robinhood for most of our indication. The main reason why is because, I mean, we have access to some of these indicators, right? I can hop over here to go ahead and search up a stock. Like if we're looking currently, we're looking at On Semiconductor. Now, if we just drop onto On Semiconductor here, guys, simply put, there's that consolidation that we're mapping out. They're a company that's been around since 1999. All right, they are. They put volume heavy and directionally. It says they're directionally bearish. There's been some revised forecasts. As far as Robinhood traders, it's been fairly even. As far as hedge funds, it's been fairly even. As far as insiders, we've seen more buy than we have seen them sell. The buy rating is above 50%, and their earnings were on par with what was expected. Now, there has been a slight decline in their earnings, but recently they had a 97% and or 97 cent per share estimated, and they beat it. They came in at 99 cents. So there was a few things about On Semiconductor that I thought were quite interesting. On, you know, their fair value right now is $86. So evaluating a fair value of $86, and then we go back here and we're at a price of $71. It simply means they're just significantly below their value. They're significantly below. So we've gone through On Semiconductor. The one we're going through here is Palantir. All right. So Palantir stock. Got a few things going on the short term. We've seen this consistent uptrend. And by short term, I mean past few months. Simply put, we're at a support right now that is looking to, if it continues its upward direction, we could see this as a healthy sell-off. Simply put, it looks like it's a little more overextended than I like. I'd like to see it drop back down. We could see it continue that upward direction. But I mean, just kind of looking at previous levels, guys, it seems like it's not going to continue that upward direction. I think we're going to see it sell off here, at least back to, you know, $38. It started this downtrend, started to recover, and it has its earnings on Monday. So we could see that catalyst. If it doesn't beat earnings on Monday, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it sell back down to $36 or more. If you look on it on the past few months, it's just way up there. So could see it absolutely sell off. It seems a little bit overbought. That the RSI, if we look on the 3-month, it looked like it's kind of crossing over, so it could continue that upward direction. But yeah, it's a tough one on the technicals because I think it's a little overextended still. I know this looks consistent, but I mean, we've seen it. Like, let's just take a look at what that is as the info line and how much it's gone up. 52% from September to November. Well, actually, 37% after the peak. It peaked out on October 28th, really, and then it sold off. That's a massive gain. I mean, could it continue its upward direction? Yeah, it could. I wouldn't particularly see myself buying it right now. I can see it selling off. There was something I just saw with SPY recently where they were evaluating the fair value of the true value of SPY. And basically, to tell you guys, like, this moving average that you see right here is about the fair value of all the stocks in the S&P. meaning we're pretty far above the fair value and we're at a premium price right now. I could see this selling off and kind of doing something similar. Again, we have a pretty big week with elections, so make sure to subscribe, do stay tuned, and see. We'll be keeping you guys up to date on that, but that's just how I see it. It's a lot like that. The value that you get, and the special part about going into a week like this, is that again you have like some stocks that are at a good deal, like Microsoft, that just beat earnings, they're out of support. So you have some good opportunities in the markets. It's not that you won't find good opportunities because the S&P in general is overbought, but it's still something to be aware of. When you look at Nvidia, it's kind of the same deal. Of course, we're all very bullish on AI and we're all bullish on semiconductors, and it's been amazing to see these companies grow, and it's really been nice for our portfolios. But let's also not, we don't want to be too over optimistic when it comes to your shorter term to swing trades. A lot of the market's looking overbought, and it's looking like it's at a premium price. And simply put, guys, like, you want to manage your risk and get in at a point where you're not putting yourself at risk to a downfall. And so you just have to be a little more, aware in that regard, and that will really make a difference in whether or not you're able to have a green trade or not. The other one that we had was Google, and there was a position I had open earlier. We don't need to go into it too deep, but essentially I see Google as a stock that's going to be continuing its upward direction. A couple things happened. We saw it make it up to that good to almost great return from if you bought here during the golden ratio of a Fibonacci, and now we're getting complicated, right? People are like, well, what Fibonacci? But simply put, we're at a point where they've been at support, and Google is one of those companies that has a pretty optimistic outlook, as a lot of people are using, Google Docs, Gmail. People use YouTube every single day. Then you have a lot of AI investment from Google that's going to fuel their growth in the long term. Now, as a shorter term trade, it also doesn't look too bad. If we look on their previous high of 190, they recently sold off down to 171, which is a 9% decrease. So simply put, if you get back to those previous levels, be looking at about a 15% increase. Now, if you're trading GOOX, which is the it's a 2 times, right? So anytime that Google goes up by 1%, GOOX, it goes up by 2%. Okay, so if you're trading GOOX, it's a little more risk, but it's got that potential for like the same move that we were just talking about. If you were to play and get after this recent pullback, they just reported positive earnings, and if you did buy right now on GOOX and it continued in that upward direction, could be looking at a 30% return. Finally started using Robinhood Legend, and absolutely loving it. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Go thank Vlad, the CEO. He's doing what he can to recover from the Robinhood. When people wanted to sell that, people wanted to buy that meme stock, but due to regulatory purposes, they were only allowed to sell it. And yeah, Robinhood gets a lot of backlash for that, but here's the bottom line: the regulatory, the legalities of it are that you have to make sure you have liquidity. You had millions of people on margin, money that was borrowed, buying GameStop and AMD or what was it, AMC. And what happened? Well, a lot of people said Robinhood should have made it so that nobody could buy and nobody could sell. They should have just froze it rather than make it, because there's people say because they made it so that you could only sell and that was the only available option, of course the stock is going to tank. Well, here's the deal. If they would have froze it so you couldn't buy or sell, what about over on Charles Schwab or over on TD Ameritrade or E-Trade or Webull? Because they did some of the same things that Robinhood did. They froze it so you couldn't buy, but you could sell. So what if you're a Robinhood user? all the other people that bought the stock on other brokerages are selling, and you're not allowed to sell, right? So they handled it in the way that they had to handle it that way, and it was the way to handle it. And they're started as a smartphone app and has become a massive brokerage by providing value to a lot of people, right? I think right now for every dollar that you deposit, there's no limit to Robinhood, you get a 1% match. They're able to do that because they've been able to work through managing the assets correctly so that they're able to offer the customer a 1% match for all money deposited. But when you have those things like Roth IRA, you get, I think it's 3% match up to 6,500. They were the first company that came and started doing 0% commissions. And you could think about all the big companies like TD Ameritrade or E-Trade or Charles Schwab or what have you. They're probably not, Vanguard, they're probably not too happy with the fact that Robinhood came in with 0% commissions. So when Robinhood had to handle that in that meme stock era where they were managing the stocks in that way, I mean, when you have press owned by Vanguard and you have other things like that, how much backlash do you think that Robinhood's going to receive? Probably a fair amount of backlash. And it wasn't even something that they did that was out of the ordinary from other brokerages. It was just the sheer volume of people that were using the platform. And that's how I see it. Someone says, look at CELH. It's going to be going up this week. All right, let's take a look. Thanks for the recommendation. All right, we're at CELH. Okay, couple things. If we look at a very long-term outlook, and I'm going to be a little funny here, but you can see, I mean, we're kind of at a support. I could look at all that upside. So the only problem with this stock is it's a little bit, it's been manipulated with volume. You can kind of tell up here. That's okay though. Let's take a look at what the nearer term is looking like. So there is an increase of volume, as you guys can see down on the volume chart. We're seeing an increase in volume. So as far as a pump or something like that, it's looking more promising. It's a little concerning to see this huge push up and a massive sell-off. If we look on the 1 month and we drop it down to maybe a 4-hour, it actually is at a critical point that we could see some potential up movement. And the only reason that I say that, see this MACD was a little bit on the oversold side. We kind of see a divergence happening because it bottomed out here and it hasn't made a lower low, but it's actually retesting the moving average. And what happens when you have it retest a moving average? Well, if you have it truly cross over, then you could potentially see it changing its direction. And the other thing you see is that right here is, you see that it dropped lower right here on the 31st than it dropped on the 23rd. You see that? So the only thing is down here on the MACD, it actually, even though it dropped lower here on the 31st, the overall momentum, if you look on the MACD, is showing divergence, which oftentimes indicates a reversal. So when we're retesting the SMA, and I don't really know the fundamentals of the company, but we can take a look. It's showing signs of a potential reversal. It hasn't confirmed a reversal, so I probably would not purchase right now. But you have some divergence. Again, what you look for in a divergence is when you have a low and then another low, and that second low might be lower, but on the MACD, it's actually looking more bullish. See how it didn't drop as much on the MACD? and retesting this moving average. Yeah. Volume definitely saw an increase back in October 11th, but kind of seeing a decrease in the volume, you see, so we could see it just continue its downward direction. I'm actually going to just jump into some fundamentals if that's okay with you guys. Is that all right if we look at the earnings and see what the company is? Celsius. Now, didn't we have Celsius reporting earnings this week? I want to say that we did. This was my upcoming earnings we just posted. Sorry if I'm in editing mode. I want to say that we had Celsius reporting earnings this week. Huh. Well, we can see right here. Okay. Boca Raton, Florida, founded 2004. $7 billion market cap. Okay. Fairly stable, mid to large. Energizing stuff. Celsius. Okay. Beverages. Yeah, I'm familiar. Okay, we don't need to go trading trends. We can go down here. There's some insider tradings if you guys want to see what the insiders have been up to. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Buy, 74% buy on a 5.3% sell, 21.1% hold. The bulls say investments in branded cooler placements should enhance Celsius in-store visibility. Bears say regulatory scrutiny in the US and Europe might diminish the firm's brand, especially with narrow category focus. They have an upcoming earnings, and the earnings is on November 6th. So yes, that was an earnings that we have this week. Didn't mean to open that. November 6th, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Celsius right there. Jaboof. Actually called Celsius out in our earnings that we released inside Stockmate. It's that second link in the description, guys, for those of you that would like to watch me trade live every single morning at market open. I would encourage you simply take a look at the second link. But again, Celsius, yeah, so they're pre-markets Wednesday reporting earnings. I would say they may beat earnings. You could see this overall trend of earnings. And it looks like their last earnings was up around 30 cents a share. And they're estimating this one to be 0.7 or 7 cents a share. I would imagine they're going to beat their earnings. So that actually could be a catalyst. They got no economic moat, but their fair value is at $36. And what were they currently at? 31. Yeah, so that's actually a nice call out. We saw a divergence, seeing it pushing up against the SMA, and could see a potential reversal there. I would wait for a little more of a push up. You could try and play it and buy it before earnings. But yeah, if it breaks this resistance, that's right. If it breaks the resistance and pushes up, we could see. I, for some reason, wouldn't imagine that it would be too long of a push up. I feel like it would be shorter, just because I don't know that. I mean, I know it's a promising brand, but fundamentally, I haven't noticed. I've kind of followed the brand, and I haven't noticed that they're really standing out as a really good long-term buy. So we're looking kind of short-term, see increased volume. They got earnings coming up, and they're retesting. If they do push up, I would imagine the first level. Well, we can actually drop in Fibonacci. So they're going lower. You go to the lowest point, which was right here. And we go to where we would imagine they would get up to. Saw previous resistance right around here. And so what that kind of looks like would mean if you were going to buy confirmation of their uptrend, you would buy above this line right here. So actually around $33.30. It's where you would have more of a confirmation that they were actually continuing to bull up. Now, if you're playing the short-term earnings play, I mean, go at your own risk. I'm not somebody that particularly likes to buy right before earnings unless I'm tremendously confident that they're going to beat their earnings. The only thing I would be basing off their potentially beating earnings is that they haven't dropped down to 7 cents per share since Q1 of 2023. And just by looking at this trend, I imagine they're going to come in around 20 cents. I don't know. That's just what I would see. But they're estimating 7 cents. So if they come in at 20 cents and that's their estimated, I mean, of course they're going to shoot up. So yeah, but I would say invest at your own risk on that one, of course. You know, it's just because they haven't confirmed the upward direction. I always like to invest in things that are already trending up, and we haven't really seen it trend up since February. So you just kind of have to, yeah. But yeah, that's a helpful call out. Take a close look. We added it to November week 1 here, so I'm sure throughout the week we can go back and check out CELH. Yeah, I don't think there was anything else on that one. I mean, there is a resistance here. Yeah, it's kind of a fundamental play. This is a previous support that if it breaks above, we could see something similar to what happened right here. You see when it broke above and it shot up all the way to $37. I could see that happen. If that happened, we'd see, and that's a margin for profit of about over 15%, 13% if you get out conservatively. And then, of course, if it's really an amazing earnings and things go amazing, you know, you could, I guess we would want to pull back up the Fibonacci again from that lowest point to where you could see it going, which, yeah, so you'd see, well, I mean, when I just mapped that out, looks like it's in a golden ratio buy right now, but it would be somewhere up here in the $34 to $36 range if it did do that. And again, just to kind of look at that info line, would be looking at what could be about a 10% margin for profit. So I won't be purchasing right before earnings. I don't believe that'd be something I would do, but you know, it's definitely one to keep an eye on. RSI is looking maybe a little under bought. MACD's a little on the oversold side there, so could potentially reverse. Yeah, man, of course, happy to do the analysis. If you have any other stocks, feel free to drop them in, and I will be happy to take a look. That's what we have our Sunday stock talk for, guys. Yeah, so technically, I'd say that's what it's looking like. Fundamentally, you also gotta, I don't drink alcohol personally, so I wouldn't find myself investing in something that I don't use. Usually, there are times, like you could say, that we buy stocks that we don't use, but we know a lot of other people do use. I get it. But yeah, support. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's the most attractive. It's the most attractive drink company that I've seen as far as buying, and that's the other thing that happens too, right? When we're overextended in the SPY above our fair value, which again we laid out, fair value is actually closer to 540. When you're above fair value on the S&P, and you think about the companies that have really driven the S&P, like Nvidia and Apple, Microsoft, you know, you have a lot of attention on these companies, and you have a lot of people putting money into AI and tech, and that's what we focus on. And overall, the returns, I believe, are outweighed from a lot of companies. To be investing in AI and tech right now is a great decision. But when it comes down to where you might find stocks that are trading at really good prices, you know, sometimes that is your CELH, your drink company, or you know, your food company. I was reading General Mills, which is like, you know, large cap, massive food company, is trading below fair value. You could see Coca-Cola was trading below fair value. I mean, there's some stocks that, you know, aren't even related to tech that are below fair value and might be a good interesting look to evaluate. You know, we kind of see the RSI trending up too, and it's gaining some momentum here on the MACD. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Appreciate the analysis. No worries. Um, I had some people telling me that we may want to be looking at Palantir. Got to take a look at that one. Amazon. If you guys have any recommendations, drop them in the chat. I was really watching Robinhood stock actually. As you guys know, we're on the Robinhood platform. They've been innovating a lot ever since the meme stock crash. They've been really having to redeem themselves, right? And we've seen it happen. And so some of the things, I saw it pushing up really a lot in the past month and a half. I don't know what the full info line will show. We saw it push up 64%, right? But right at the end of the week, I don't know that I think they reported earnings last week, but they're down 17% on a pullback. But I was watching this interview with Vlad actually right here. I'm actually 42 minutes in. It's funny, I actually still have it open, but I was just kind of listening while I was doing some work. And he was talking about all the things they're doing to innovate, and that was back in April. And I was really, they do things. They're having massive imports from, or massive funds transferred over from big companies. Even myself, I'm just now going to be transferring from Schwab over here to Robinhood because of the difference in how I can trade. I could trade better. I get matched. I think it was like 4% they're going to give me when I transfer my money over. It's commission free. And so, there's a lot of advantages that happen there that they've had that are changing the dynamic. They have a lot of revenue streams. I read they had 7 revenue streams. They had margin. They got their assets that they invest. They have their Robinhood Gold. They have their the Roth IRA match. They have their data that they share. And then nowadays, if you go, they're even sharing data. You can see like on Celsius, they have Robinhood data. So that, a lot of people are saying they're keeping the data. They're actually showing, they don't show real time right now, but they show you all the way up till today, like day by day, how many Robinhood users are buying and selling. They're showing you how the hedge funds are buying and selling. Like they're actually outright giving you all this information, how many insiders, and then the names of the insiders, how much they're buying and selling. And I think what's next is you have Vlad actually. He came before inventing Robinhood. He was working on algorithmic trading, so feeding data and things like that to be able to have the stock move or have the stock buy and sell based on the information that you give it. What I could see next is, you guys want to see what I could see next? Can I show you guys something freaking cool? So let's just like drop in to this stock right here, Hood, and this is what is coming next, I believe. You come here, you take a screenshot of Hood, and you make sure that you have all the dates clearly set out with the MACD and the SMA. So it's all, if I could look at this, I could do a pretty good analysis. And then going over to here for uploading, this could be something they do internally, but take that into ChatGPT to an AI. Where are my downloads that I just took a screenshot? You guys, recent, is that it? I think this is it. All right. And again, I shared this with you guys, all of the upcoming earnings for this week. So if you want all the earnings, don't hesitate. You can go grab the free book in the first link in the description. You'll get it on our email list. Make sure you never miss that. So again, you take it here, drop it in, And you could say, hey, what's coming next for, and I'm not telling it to like too much, but what's coming next for Robinhood stock? You're an expert analyst. And of course, it has real-time data that it can pull, right? On ChatGPT, it has real-time data. So I again, we uploaded it and it's analyzing the moving averages. Okay, it's analyzing the MACD. It's analyzed the RSI and all of the levels that appear on the screen. And then what could come next? The short-term outlook, the long-term outlook. Short-term, given the bearish signals from both the MACD crossing over and the price falling below the 20-day EMA, a short-term pullback seems likely. The price may find support around $25 initially, but if it fails to hold, test the 200-day moving average, which would be at $19.45. The long-term outlook, if the stock manages to stay above the 200-day moving in the coming weeks, it could signal the overall uptrend is intact, right? And that's exactly, like, guys, that's almost exactly what I would say looking at this. I'd say, guys, we saw it cross below the moving average and it crossed below this EMA, and now this EMA is going to do what it does. You know, it oftentimes acts as a resistance, and that's what it's doing. And then we'd say, so with that being said, it looks kind of bearish. And if we see it push all the way down to this 200-day moving average, and if it continues below it, then we could definitely see it, become very bearish. But overall, I'd see it maybe sell off a little bit more and continue its upward direction that we're seeing laid out here. And I think that, we just did that with ChatGPT. And so where we were was Robinhood stock. We're in this platform, and what could we see potentially happen? And one of the things is I think they could integrate AI. They've already got the news, they got the technicals, they got the fundamentals, they got the insider trading, they got the analyst ratings along with the Morningstar reports. If I click right here, I could see their Morningstar report. I could take it and drop it onto ChatGPT and get an analysis. They got the earnings and everything else. And so you have all the fundamentals. And if there was one innovation that we could see coming next to the platform, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like this, where it's going to analyze the chart and give kind of a ChatGPT relative, outlook. And maybe even, you can create different characters with your AI, and then you can, and you guys can see my history here. I mean, we have a lot of things going on. Best domain for stock AI. We got Tesla stock analysis insights. I've been testing it out. It's pretty dang good on ChatGPT. It's pretty good. So I can see that innovation happening, but positive earnings, I believe. Let's take a look. So again, they sold off after market. Their earnings, so estimated was 18 cents a share. They came in at 17 cents a share. It's good to see them shooting above zero. They're actually getting positive 50% buy, and Robinhood users are buying. You can see hedge funds have recently sold quite a bit of Robinhood, and even insiders have sold a significant amount. We had an 80 million sell from the director. We can even see Vlad, CEO, when he buys and sells. And he had sold uninformatively October 8th at the beginning of this month. But if you look at the stock and you look at the 1 month, October 8th, so yeah, he made a good sell. But if he would have, you could see even after that, I don't know that was really the best sell. We can look at the 1 month here. If we drop it down to the 4 hour, if you sold on October 8th right here, and we look at the info line, October 8th, At one point, it was up 12% from there. But it sold off after hours. They had okay earnings. Could see them continue up in their direction. But yeah, definitely Robinhood coming, with an uptrend here. We're seeing them start to push up. They sold off. A little bit less risk to get in now after the recent sell-off. That recent sell-off was, I think, if we marked it up, it was about 17%. Let's just double check. Yep, 17%. And with that recent sell-off, if you were to get in and it were to continue in its upward direction, or even retest, it's a 30% swing. Conservatively, really a 20% swing if it gets up to, it continues in its current direction. But RSI is looking oversold, MACD is looking oversold. And then, of course, some of the indicators outside of that fundamentally that we're looking at, we're looking not bad. They recently, they raised the price target over at Barclays to $26 from $23. But I think they're currently at 23, right? So they're what would be below fair value according to Barclays. But if we look, last little check here, last little check on Robinhood was, where's their fair value? I don't see their fair value. And this one wasn't working. I was getting an AWS error. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. Let's try it again. Yeah, it's not. Where is the Morningstar report? I don't even see it. Interesting. Yeah, we got to look at it. But anyway, recently sold off. Could be a margin for profit. We're looking at there. If you guys have any other stocks you'd like me to take a look at, do drop them in the chat below. I got some great recommendations. We got to look at quite a few so far today. We're going to be wrapping it up here. We started the live stream at 6:30, I believe. So we're just going to be here for about 5 more minutes. If you guys have any other potential stocks that you'd be curious to look at. One of the stocks I was recently looking at was BYD. I got to make sure that's the right. Let's see. BYD stock. I got to make sure it's the right ticker. Oh, yeah, it's the right ticker. I'm just making sure. I would think it would just be BYD or something like that. It's BYDDY. So I was looking at this stock because they're a competitor to Tesla and Mercedes, Ford. They have some of the only autonomous vehicles that are over in China right now. So leading car maker in China, trying to get a better outlook on there. Let's see if we can see 4-hour year to date. There we go. Yeah, they really have trended up. They were pushing up above this SMA and they sold off. Could be potentially a good time to evaluate BYD. What are we looking like there? Yeah, I mean, it just recently crossed below that moving average, so we could see it sell off further. The RSI is looking like it's underbought. The MACD looks like a buy. It's had this overall upward direction, which is always a good sign. I think if we look on the shorter term, drop it down to maybe a 1 month, like a 4-hour candle. Yeah, the volume was really high back here. We saw the RSI massively overextend. MACD was way overextended before crossing over. Saw it cross below that EMA, get rejected. Now it's kind of consolidating here. BYD is invested in by Warren Buffett, which is funny because Warren Buffett primarily invests in US companies, but he doesn't want to touch he doesn't want to touch Tesla. He says, I don't want to touch Tesla. I just want to invest in this Chinese company that is competing with Tesla. If we look at the margin for profit, if it does continue its upward direction, and we see a little more confirmation, it'd be about 17%, a little more aggressively, a little more conservatively, we could see, 15%. It's a nice margin for profit. I've seen it go on sale recently. There was a time back here earlier in October where I remember saying, how far is BYD going to go? It was at $83 a share, an all-time high, and then it sold off, recovered, sold off again. Now we're still we've seen this new pattern kind of develop without a whole lot of data to work with. Yeah. If we do a shorter term, like let's do a 1 month on the 1 hour. Kind of look at that, and we do Fibonacci. We go from down here to the low. You bring it up to where we could potentially see it going, which would be right around here. Then the buy, according to Fibonacci, would be in that 0.618 golden ratio would be right here. So if you saw it break above, and this is what most traders use as indication, would be right here, $73 a share, and then could see a good trade going to 76, great trade to 78, and an amazing trade, I guess up to 81 or below or above. Not a lot of risk, fair amount of risk, but I mean, the only thing that worries me is this crossing over of the EMA. So I'll just take a look at that. Technicals look that way. If we look on the fundamentals, if you guys care, let's take a look. So 100% buy on 8 analyst ratings. Can you believe it? 100% buy. Didn't get any other like Morningstar report or anything like that. Just simple analyst ratings. China. Yeah, interesting. Let's look on a very simple chart. Yeah, pushed up, sold off. Could be a little nice trade to be looking at later this week. Alrighty. So yeah, BYD, it's a nice one. Guys, 7:30, appreciate you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you guys giving me some stock recommendations, and then also I hope that it was valuable for you, that we're able to identify some good deals and also identify some bad deals that we might want to stay away from. Now, the good part about investing in tech and AI is that you're in an ever-growing industry, and it's one of the best industries to be looking at investing in 2024 and into 2025. So for those of you guys that would like to learn how to invest in AI and tech crash-proof investments, I would encourage you to check out the second link in the description. That's Stockmate. If you'd like to watch me trade live tomorrow at market open, that's the place to be. If I earned your thumbs up, hit that like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.